Code Red, helping families avoid serious problems or troubles between their kids and dogs. Who better to speak about that subject than the wonderful Justine Schuurmans from Family Dog, who is going to be a speaker at the Dog Behavior Conference. Register now, April the 1st to the 3rd. It's virtual. You don't have to be there all the time in person, none of the time if you don't want, and all of the time if you do want, because as soon as you register and the presentations go live, you'll have access to all of those presentations for 12 months. So if you're interested in hearing Justine Schuurmans' presentation and the presentations of all the other speakers, then do register, dogbehaviorconference.com. But Justine, I'm really glad you're here today. And I'm also really glad you're speaking at the conference, because even though we have obviously touched on the subject of kids and dogs before, we've never done it with you or the way you do it, which is, I think, and always since I've known you and the Family Dog and known what you provide, not just for trainers, but for dog lovers, for pet parents and for kid parents everywhere, is, I think, something that is vital and that every single parent of children need to look at.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like the family community is a little underserved sometimes in the dog training world. And with so many dogs in homes with young children, that's tragic. I feel like we really do need to shine a little bit more of a light on that particular audience. So yes, that's what I'm here to do, and share what I know and help as many people as I can, really. That's the idea.
So you're talking about avoiding serious troubles.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, there's some really crazy statistics out there that by the time a child is 12, there's a 50% likelihood that they will have been bitten by a dog.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. That just should not be.
No, it's nutty. That's, 1 in 2 kids will have been bitten by the time they're 12, which is nutty. And then you've got kids that are between 5 and 9 are the ones that are the most likely to get bitten, and boys specifically as well. So not that we're not overlooking the girls, but I mean, it's numbers that are just way, way, way too high. And I think that I've been doing this a long time now, and I can only really think that it boils down to a couple of things. There's a humongous mismatch of expectations really that's going on between what families think a dog is, and what they do and what they're capable of and what they'd like in their pet dogs and what dogs actually are. And then we have all of like the kid natural behavior. Kids are naturally unpredictable. They're not super gentle. They don't think through their actions and think about what's going to happen in the future. Or if I do this, what's the consequence of that? They don't do that. And so sometimes when you put those things together, there can be trouble. And not only just dogs and kids, but parents are working much harder than they ever were, trying to, work, have a job like they don't have children and be a parent like they don't have a job. They're spread so thin that I think, I'm going to talk about this in my talk, but it's a bit of a perfect storm, honestly. What I see going on. And I haven't even got into the dog part of that and what's happening to dogs. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be concerned about, I think. And if we don't get really good information to families, and if we don't really understand where families are coming from and meet them where they are, then we're not going to be able to make any impact. Yes. So that's really that's what I'm hoping to do, is to kind of like change some perspective, some lenses a little bit, so that we can help more people.
What do you say? I mean, this is a tiny little bit of a pivot, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this. What do you say to or about families that parents or trusted adults that like are influenced by the kids to go get a dog, and the kids promise that they're going to work with the dog?
Oh, they promise. They promise.
And then it just doesn't happen. And then the parents, the guardians are annoyed because those kids they've just lost interest and they're not doing anything. I mean, I always say to people that kids can be really persuasive, but
Oh, yes.
you should only get dogs or a dog if you want a dog, because you're going to be the one that's looking after it.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, if you go to, this is not a horrendous plug for my website, but it's funny because on my website, on the very homepage, I made a video with my son, and it says exactly that. Are your kids promising that they'll pick up poop and they'll feed the dog? And then he's like, it's all lies. So it's really funny. It's a really funny video.
My daughter, I mean, she was never like that. She never said, I want a dog, because we've always had dogs.
Yeah.
She's grown up with them. But yeah, even now being 17, oh my gosh, trying to get her to walk or feed I mean, yeah, she's busy, right? She's busy like every other teenager out there now with school and college applications and this and that and just general life. But still, I would never get a dog because my kid said, please, can we get a dog? I just wouldn't unless I know that the care would come down to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think you raise a really, really good point that as a parent, you've got to hear what your kid's saying, hear the kid's desire, but then really decide, if you take the kid out of the equation, are you happy to do the work yourself? And if you're really not happy to do the work, don't get a dog. Don't fall for it, because, do what my parents did, buy me hamsters and stupid goldfish and everything else.
Did you have hamsters and goldfish too?
I never had a dog growing up.
No, neither did I. My father, he didn't like them, and he just, and I would put notes under his pillow saying, please, can I have a dog? But no, we never did. But we also had hamsters and fish. Maybe that's a British thing. And I remember,
the desperation attempt from parents just to do anything but get a dog.
Yeah. And even after cleaning out the fish was just like, I don't want to do it. And then I remember my hamsters always bit me, and they were all called Hammy. We never had names. They were all called Hammy. And then you would suddenly come in one morning and you would be like coming to feed the hamster, and then you tap the hamster, and then the hamster just would be dead because they don't last that long. I mean, we looked after our hamsters, but and then the goldfish. We got a cat, but never a dog. Right. And I think, as much as I sort of railed against my father, please, 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 he was actually really smart.
Really smart. Do you know what my parents did? They got me. They love dogs. Actually, they had dogs before I was born, which made it even more of a flagrant foul as far as I was concerned. But they said to me, if you really love dogs, you wouldn't keep asking us to get one, because we both work full time and no one's going to be around to look after this dog. And I was like, dang it.
Wow.
Supposed to say to that. So we had hamsters. We had so many of them that we had a hamster hotel. My dad actually built this giant structure because they kept having babies and we didn't know how to sex them and keep them all apart. So they had, I think we should get back to dogs, because I've got really. I know,
we really should get back to dogs. But when you said you had hamsters and fish, I was like, oh gosh. Or I was just thinking of all our hammies that we had and how I love those hamsters so much. And I was a really good hamster. Anyway, yes, we'll get to dogs.
But I just wanted to say though, I mean, having done this, as I say, for a long time, I have met tons of families where the kids have bailed, obviously, on their responsibilities. And I've met parents that have been really frustrated. But on the flip side of that, I have also worked with loads of families where the kids have been super dedicated and they've really worked hard. And they also are very quick at learning. I mean, this is one of the reasons that I love, they always say, don't work with kids or animals. And for some reason, my life, I just cannot get away from kids. I keep trying, but I keep being forced. I worked for summer camps, and as a camp counselor, I worked for Nickelodeon for many years. And now I'm working with kids now, but I find them to be sponges. They're quick learners. They have so much joy and fun in them that it's kind of like working with puppies. So if you like working with puppies, you can very easily feel like kids are so similar on so many levels. Again, unpredictable, love of fun, don't think about future consequences, a really, really similar kind of experience. So, but I personally love it. I love seeing the change when something happens. They're like, oh my gosh, I asked the dog to do this and they listened, or they played a game together and you can see that connection forming, and I love it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously as trainers, sometimes we're brought in when things aren't going so right, but we're not saying that things don't go right, because the relationship between children and dogs is amazing. I remember bringing in Sadie. Sadie was 5 years old when she came to live with us, and Alex was 3. And Sadie came in, this big brown lumbering Labrador, goofy as anything, saying hello, and Alex hid behind me. She's like, I'm not sure about this. And then Sadie came over to her, sort of looked at this child. This child looked at Sadie, and Sadie sat just in front of her, like, okay, what's it? And then Alex smiled, and that was it. That was it till Sadie died 4 years ago.
What a wonderful dog.
And
what a wonderful dog to be able to read that and say, I get what you're thinking. I'll just stay back here and you come over when you're ready. That's really wonderful.
Yeah. So, I mean, so things can go right. But obviously your presentation and all the work you do is to help families make things go right, but also to help families when things maybe don't go so right.
Yeah, I think the best thing that we can do as trainers is to obviously to set families up for success right from the beginning. So, I mean, it's not unusual for people to know that they need to do some training with their dog. And I think what I would love the world to know is that if you have children in your house, you need family specific training for your dog. It's not just training for your dog in like a little bubble where the dog has to own all of the responsibility. It's actually, sorry about that, I don't know if you can hear it. There's trucks going by, there's ice everywhere here. It's not the dog's responsibility to get it right completely by themselves. Parents have a responsibility and the kids have a responsibility. And so if we can get in early, you know, a lot of families will get puppies versus older dogs. That just seems to be what I see myself. It's a whole other discussion. But if we can get in early and then teach the families what they need to know, so make sure that the parents are really, really clear on what they're teaching their kids. Because if they don't know, if they're just focusing on training the dog and they're not paying any attention to the way that their kids are interacting with that dog, you know, disturbing them while they're eating or while they're sleeping or picking them up and handling them too roughly, you know, you're setting up that relationship to tank really quickly. And, you know, nobody wants to see that happen. So want to make really some serious clarity for the parents and then give kids fun ways to interact with their dog that everybody can enjoy. Because if it's only fun for the kid and the dog's hating it, again, it's not going to set up the relationship for any type of success. Same way if the dog's having loads of fun and terrorizing the child, that's not fun either. So it's just like, I spend a lot of time playing games and setting up fun activities for them because they are going to connect and interact. They're going to bump into each other in the house. So we want to teach them the right things to do. It's a bit like when you get a puppy, you know that, and I'm speaking from experience since I now have a 5-month-old puppy who's sometimes testing me, that you want to give them constructive stuff to do around your house. You've got to play with them because they're going to just, if you don't play with them, they have energy to get out and they're going to want to go and eat your shoes, or they're going to want to, you know, pull all the laundry out of the basket while you're trying to fold it, you know, that kind of stuff. So what can we do to turn that need into a game so that you're not wrecking the laundry and driving me nutty, but we're actually connecting? So same thing with kids.
So really, play is important. It's an important way to bond with your dog. Kids love playing, dogs love playing, most dogs love playing, and adults love playing. I mean, we play tennis, we play golf, we play soccer, we play, you know, we like play too. But what happens when the dog is not interested in the child? What happens if the kid's really trying to connect and the dog's still saying, I don't want that. I don't want any piece of that.
I would want to go a little deeper on that and find out why. Has something happened previously to the dog that has kind of put them off kids? Has something happened to that dog with that particular child that's put them off? Do they need to do some relationship repair stuff, first of all? I just to backstep a little bit, I think that the point that you brought up is like, if they're not if they're not naturally gravitating towards each other,
Yeah.
my goal is to always try to make the child relevant to the dog. If the kid just kind of comes into the room and is doing their own thing or playing with their own toys, eat their breakfast, go off to school, whatever, they kind of can be like a piece of furniture to the dog, not really that interesting. So I want the dog to feel like it's their birthday every time the kid walks into the room. And you do that from, a very young age, incorporating the kids into the training. It's not really training, into the lifestyle and into the connection with the dog. And so that they learn to just be like, whoa, he's here. Yay. What are we doing? And if you don't get that straight away, as I say, I would want to peel back some of the layers. I would want to see what the body language of the dog looked like. Are they just generally not interested in playing? Maybe it's not a playing thing, that they're not interested. Either they're older or they don't particularly like toys. Maybe the kids could, I love setting up hiding treats like in a basement or in a room and keeping the dog locked out and be like, ready, go find him. That kind of stuff where the kids can be involved, but maybe not hands-on. Maybe that's what's bothering the dog. And I would want to just let the dog take it at their own pace. I mean, that's really where the parent has to step in and say, they're not really digging that. And we have to accept the dog for who they are. And that can be a little bit sad, because I think, again, we have this notion that dogs are more like stuffed animals really than living, breathing, feeling beings. I had just a quick sidebar. I have a dog that's 12 pounds and he's a mess. He's just a total mess. He's got medical issues. He's got behavioral issues. He's got everything, but he's stinking cute. And somehow I managed to, say, sure, you can come home with us. But when I brought him home, my son was probably, I want to say about 7. They were playing with ball and, my son went to pick up a ball from between his paws. So they were just retrieving. But as he went to pick it up, my dog growled at him and went like this. And it really frightened my son. And I was like, I totally get it. That's messed up. He's clearly like, it's messed up to you, but it's not messed up to the dog. I'm sorry that you're upset, but you're okay. And I then had to say to him, we now can't play those kind of games with him. You can't play with him when you're by yourself in the same way. We're not going to have resources around. So no toys until I'm there and we're going to do some stuff together. And that really bummed my son out. It really did. He really liked him. He was really frightened, but it was a necessary step to keep the relationship intact. And then over time, as we played together, that, we managed to move out of that resource guarding step. But it was because my dog could then trust my son that he wasn't going to take things away or take things away. But if I hadn't been a trainer or I hadn't have known that, I probably wouldn't have, I would have just been like, what's wrong with the dog? Why is he growling over this? But he was, he's got issues about people taking things away from him. He's very guardy and protective over his food, particularly, but about toys too. And we needed to show him that he didn't need to worry. There are plenty of toys and
it's okay. And because I've been, obviously Mike Shikashio is going to be speaking at the conference too. And I was speaking with him and, it's saying that, look, we all resource guard stuff. I mean, we all resource guard our food and we alarm our homes, we alarm our cars because we don't want people taking our stuff.
No.
And I love going to seminars and illustrating this because I just go pick somebody in the audience and a random somebody and go take their bag from them. And then I take it back up onto the stage and then I just like rifle through their bags and they're like, what? Well, this is how you don't like it. This compromises your safety, makes you feel uncomfortable. So the fact that you do have a dog that is a resource guard, the fact that you recognize that and can deal with it. And what I like the way you dealt with it is that the dog growled, wow, great feedback, because it wasn't a bite. Great feedback. You were like, your son went, oh, also great. You didn't come in there and go, bad dog, bad dog, bad dog. You were like, okay, now I'm getting information. This dog is giving information to my son. Yep. I'm getting information from this dog. And now I've got to use my big human brain that we all have how are we going to figure that out? How are we going to figure this out? And I wish more people would do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, adding like a punishment or shouting at him only adds to the stress that he's already feeling about somebody taking away that ball that felt very precious in the moment. Yeah, I mean, you're so right. We all resource guard our stuff. I just had a kind of big fight with my family about who took my charging wire out of the back of my computer. Like,
did you have
why
those
is it always the charging
too?
wire? I'm like, who took it?
Oh my gosh.
My computer. Anyway, so
I have that all the time. I have that all the time. Yeah, look, somebody come take my phone. You're going to take my phone.
No.
Nobody takes this away from me.
No, don't even touch it. Don't even pick it up.
Right. Exactly. This is my property. I'll fight you for it. I will growl. I'll warn you first. Give my phone back, or don't touch it. Yeah. And then if you continue, bets are off because I'm going to fight for this because it was expensive.
But we're in a really weird place because you probably were in the same stage as I was, Victoria, because we're similar ages. But if you back in the UK, if a dog growled at you or bit you when you were younger, your parents' first question to you would be, "What were you doing?"
Yes.
What did you do?
What did you do?
It wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's terrible." They'd be like, "Well, what did you do?"
Oh, yes.
And we have moved so far out of that. Our parents believed that dogs had the right to be able to growl and even to bite if we were doing, things that were unacceptable to the dog. But that's not the case anymore. I mean, often the reaction from parents is, I can't live with a dog who growls at my kids. I can't have that in my house. And I understand it because it's scary. It is scary, especially if you've got young children. So I'm not trying to negate the feelings of the parents, but we've moved as a society to believe that dogs just need to take it all and shush.
Yeah, right. I've really learned that. And that's why, I refer to Dilly a lot, which is the beagle behind me, which is my grandmother's beagle. And so when I was a young child, my grandmother, who actually bred beagles, she was a hobby breeder and a good one, I might say. But Dilly didn't really like kids, and Dilly told me. Yeah. And my grandmother did exactly that. Well, you deserve it because this is what you did.
Yep.
And she was right. What a life lesson.
Yep.
I wouldn't have learned anything if she just told the dog off. But she talked to me. She was like, look, this is, and don't let's ever forget, right? Don't let's ever forget whatever we do with our dogs and we dress them up or we give them birthday parties or whatever. Let's never forget they're still dogs.
Yes.
And that's, I know that Kim Brophy's a very good friend of yours, and she is speaking as well at the conference. And, it was interesting speaking with her of seeing how our industry, the dog training industry, is evolving even now.
Her work is revolutionary.
Yes.
It's revolutionary. It's the thing that I think that so many of us dog trainers have felt inside, but haven't had words or science to back it up. Right. And I cannot say how grateful I am for her work and how much it's influencing the way that I'm moving my work forward as well, and how many other people are being touched by this and how much good it's going to do for the dog training world. And even the word training now kind of feels a bit like a swear word.
Yeah,
I don't really like it. I don't know what I want to exchange it for.
Being a teacher, and I have to say another person, a revolutionary, is Jennifer Arnold. And she has spoken at the conference before, and seeing the impact of the change that she's made with her assistance dogs in the way that they teach them. They used to teach them. I'm on the board of Canine Assistance, so they used to teach them all the time, all these cues. And then they were like, wait a second, this is like, we're so directing the dog. Sometimes these dogs can't think for themselves. It's what we sort of tell the punitive trainers off for doing, but yet the positive reinforcement trainers are also doing it too. It's like, okay, you do, I say you do relationship, and then you get this. Yes. So she changed the whole way that she worked with these dogs. And now you have these dogs that literally they are with people with disabilities, but they are, now most of our dogs go into hospitals around the country, around the nation. And now you have these dogs that they know very few cues. But the way they're taught is A, we're going to understand what it means to be dog. B, we're going to see what you need in the world to be successful. We're going to create this bond. We're going to give you choice. And the most important thing is that by doing that, you're going to be really good problem solvers. You're going to have some autonomy, and that's going to bring confidence. And so these dogs are perfect for hospitals because they're resilient, because they're confident, because they know, and they're emotionally stable. They know if they need to leave, they can leave. Yeah. And they're not directed from on high. Right. A little bit. And of course, we cue our dogs all the time with the language we use, even if we don't mean to, and our body language. But she's a game changer. Kim Brophy's a game changer. This industry is going in a direction that it has needed to go to for a long time.
100%. And that all of the common denominator of this is seeing the dog for who they are, right? And that's the piece that's been missing. And I feel like, again, because this is my focus and my lens, families are hit so hard with the opposite information. If you go on social media, all you see is dogs being treated like stuffed animals. And that is the high point, aren't they the best when you can? I mean, I have a clip of a dog that is lying in a bed with a little girl with a turban around its head under the covers with two pieces of...
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, two pieces of cucumber over its eyes.
Oh,
and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But if that's all you see, if you're scrolling through Instagram and you're going through your reels and you're seeing dogs doing crazy stuff like that, that's your expectation of what a dog should be doing and should put up with and should enjoy from your kids. So when you see your kids doing crazy stuff, like trying to put a turban on its head or wrap it up in a towel, and the dog does anything but love it, you're going to think your dog is a dud. Right. And your dog is not a dud, it's a dog. So I think that's, there's a real struggle. And so it's great that this tide is kind of coming to hopefully change and counteract what's going on in the social media world, because I think that's the really dangerous piece.
Oh, it's so, I mean, we see it with teenagers as well, the influence of social media on our teenagers' mental health, but for everything. And, at VSA, the first thing that we teach our students, and have done since, I think 6 years ago, we launched it, is first of all, talk about cognition, right? Before we even go into training, we talk about cognition, how dogs perceive the world, and how dogs think, feel. Yeah. And then, the other thing we do is that we see ourselves, we call it the bridge, where we look at the dog's needs and wants first, and then we put that with the human needs and wants, and then we create that bridge. Where can they meet in the middle? How? And that's great. But so we're not saying that you can't teach your dog to sit, stay, and come when called, but you have to understand why you're doing it and what's in it for the dog. What is in it for the dog? We know what we want, but what is in it for the dog?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it doesn't, I think I'm not against training by any stretch of the imagination. Again, I'm really having fun with my own dog, teaching him new things. He loves to learn it. At the point where he doesn't love to learn it, I'm done. What can I teach him that he's engaged with, that we can play together and experience together? Yeah. And really the training is half my training to figure out what he likes the most. What can I tap into that he's like, oh my gosh, I love it. I figured out he's a spaniel, and his job, if we was to flush birds out of high grass. And so I've noticed that if I throw a toy for him to retrieve on a flat soccer field, it's one thing. But if I take that toy and I toss it into some really high grass and he gets to bound through it, he's like, whoa, I've arrived. And so that's my learning. How can I turn this dog on and make him just love every single minute that we're out together? And then, of course, if I can serve him and fill his bucket when he comes home, and I say, you now have to sit in your crate while I'm doing this chat with Victoria and be nice and quiet, it's easy. It's a really nice relationship. We're a team. It's not me bossing him. He's part of the gang. And that's what I want families to understand, that your dog is, if you want your dog to be part of your family, you have to treat them like part of the family, you know, and just kind of, not exactly as you would your children, but have the same kind of, what's the word? The same kind of rubric, almost like protect them in the way you would protect your kids, listen to them in the way that you would listen to your kids, respond to them in the way you would respond to your kids, and love them in the way that you would love your kids. You know, the great thing about working with parents is they have done this all before. They know how to do it with children. And so we just tap into I tap into that same channel. I'm like, let's go right back to the parenting thing, because that's really what it is.
And this is the reason why you're speaking at the conference. And I cannot wait for attendees to hear what you have to say and how you do things. If people want to find out more right now, where do they go? Apart from dogbehaviorconference.com to register, where do they go to find out more about you?
This conference, by the way, is going to be insane. Yeah. The lineup that you have, I mean, I've had some serious imposter syndrome. There's like some crazy, amazing speakers.
Not imposter syndrome at all.
So if you want to find out more about family training, if you just go to thefamilydog.com, that everything is there. And when you arrive there, if you're a professional, you can go to the pro side and see all of the resources that I have for professionals. And if you're a family, you go over to the family side and see all the stuff that I have over there.
Fantastic. Well, Justine, I cannot wait to see your presentation, and I cannot wait to see you in April. And you'll be there to do a Q&A session as well after your talk. So
yes, and we won't have any hamsters.
No, promise. Oh, but Hammy, oh my God, I love my hamster. And do you know what? I have to say, when I first got married, we were on tour, and I went to a garden center and I saw a hamster. And I was like, I wanted to buy it. I called it Horace. I was at the checkout, called my future husband to be at the time. I was like, I think I'm going to get this hamster. And he's like, what are you doing? Because I missed hamsters. Anyway, I didn't end up getting Horace. And I don't like the fact that hamsters and things are being sold at pet stores. I don't think they should be.
But the garden centre, that's where I got mine. That's where it all started in the UK.
In the UK,
that's it. Plants, and you're like, see you later. I'm going.
That's it. You can get your fish, your hamster, whatever. I know it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, Justine, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this. It's going to be fabulous.
I'll see you in April.
Yep.